Chapter 31. Aaron's Rod. Numbers 17, 1-13. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and take of every one of them a rod according to the house of their fathers, of all their princes according to the house of their fathers, 12 rods. Write thou every man's name upon his rod. And thou shalt write Aaron's name upon the rod of Levi, for 1 rod shall be for the head of the house of their fathers. And thou shalt lay them up in the tabernacle of the congregation before the testimony, where I will meet with you. And it shall come to pass that the man's rod whom I shall choose shall blossom, and I will make to cease from me the murmurings of the children of Israel, whereby they murmur against you. And Moses spake unto the children of Israel, and every one of their princes gave him a rod apiece, for each prince 1 according to their fathers' houses, even 12 rods. And the rod of Aaron was among their rods. And Moses laid up the rods before the Lord in the tabernacle of witness. And it came to pass that on the morrow Moses went into the tabernacle of witness, and behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi was budded, and brought forth buds, and bloomed blossoms, and yielded almonds. And Moses brought out all the rods from before the Lord unto all the children of Israel, and they looked, and took every man his rod. And the Lord said unto Moses, Bring Aaron's rod again before the testimony, to be kept for a token against the rebels, and thou shalt quite take away their murmurings from me, that they die not. And Moses did so, as the Lord commanded him, so did he. And the children of Israel spake unto Moses, saying, Behold, we die, we perish, we all perish. Whosoever cometh anything near unto the tabernacle of the Lord shall die. Shall we be consumed with dying? Numbers 17, 1-13. The key word in this text is rod, Pentateuch in the Hebrew. It can mean a chastening rod, a scepter, or a walking stick. It is sometimes used figuratively to mean the staff of life, as bread. Here it is a literal rod, a walking stick. Such rods, or walking sticks, were long, sturdy, and well worn, smoothed down for easy use. They were also used as a ready and handy weapon, and a man's head could be cracked open with them. Well into the medieval era, serfs and commoners, forbidden the use of a knight's weapon, such as a sword, could unhorse a knight on horseback with their staves, although such an act was illegal. Thus, to understand what rods means here, we must think of a solid staff, useful for walking over rough terrain, and also as a ready weapon. Rods came in different styles. Men of authority, such as princes and chieftains, carried carved and ornate rods as a symbol of their rank. In such instances, the word rods could also mean tribe or clan, because it represented the authority of the clan. We have a related fact in a bishop's staff of authority. It is similar to a shepherd's staff to indicate authority over the flock. A variety of like symbols of authority are common to history, as, for example, a Celtic chief's claymore, a type of sword. It is a mistake to assume that these rods of Numbers 17 were of almond wood. The princes of the 12 tribes were to submit their rods or staffs to Moses. In addition, a 13th rod, Aaron's, was also surrendered to Moses. None knew what to expect. All the rods were taken into the sanctuary to be laid before the testimony, that is, before the ark. They were then told that the rod of the man whom God had chosen to represent him would blossom, and God would put an end to the idea of a democracy before him. Verse 5. Every man's name was to be written on his staff or rod. It is likely that all were already identifiable, but no room was allowed for doubt. All the rods are carefully labelled as well, so that no confusion was possible. Verse 6 makes it clear that there were 12 rods, and then also Aaron's rod. In verse 3 it is called the rod of Levi, meaning that it was the rod of authority for that tribe. The next morning, the 12 rods were returned to the 12 princes, and in none of them was there the slightest change. Then Aaron's rod was brought forth. It had gone through all the changes of an almond tree simultaneously. It had buds, blossoms, and even fruit. This event left a vivid memory in Israel's history. Rationalists since then have tried to explain away this fact and have only sounded ridiculous as a result. Hence, the episode is now bypassed as a legend. This miracle was a witness to the power of God. He can make the dead to live, whether a stick or a man. He is the ultimate power over all creation, and nothing is impossible for him. If God can perform so great a miracle with a dry rod or staff, what can he not do with men and nations? As a result, Aaron's rod that budded was to be kept before the testimony as a continual reminder of God's power. Only the high priest would see it there, but it was a reminder to him and through him to all the people of God's great regenerating power. As against a radical democracy, God set forth his electing choice. Aaron was not chosen for any special merit, but because God chose to use him. We, too, are objects of God's electing grace, and the good that we do is his work through us. A man-ordained equality before God is plainly negated. The modern church stresses democracy. God stresses his authority. Because the rod is also a sign of power and authority, as with a royal scepter, God makes it clear that all authority is God-ordained, especially in this case, Aaron's and Moses's. Because the entire episode was directed by God through Moses, Moses' own status with God was clearly affirmed. In the words of James Phillip, the message that comes through in all this is surely clear and plain. Hands off my work, says God. Do not touch my anointed ones, and do my prophets no harm. Psalm 105:15. Centuries later, Jeremiah was given a grim task by God to proclaim God's judgment on an evil generation. This judgment, however, was an aspect of God's preparation for the future, for setting aside the Hebrew states, for the coming of the Messiah, and for the church to supplant Judah. The vision of encouragement Jeremiah received included Aaron's rod, Jeremiah 1:7-11. There is an interesting reference to a staff or rod never budding in the Iliad when Achilles says to Agamemnon in Cowper's translation, "But hearken, I shall swear a solemn oath, by this sceptre, which shall never bud, nor boughs bring forth as once, which having left its stalk in the high mountains, at what time the woodman's axe lopped off its foliage green, and stripped its bark, shall never grow again. But this I swear." In Virgil, the king Latinus confirms his covenant with Aeneas with a similar oath. For a rod, sceptre, or staff to bud was an image of the impossible. This episode does not tell us that Aaron was superior to other men or better qualified than all others. It means that God's choice is sovereign, and we cannot in any sphere limit our obedience to only those authorities whom we believe are superior to us in every respect. The reaction of the people to this miracle is one of self-pity, verses 12 and 13. Verse 12 is rendered in Jewish versions as, "Behold, we perish, we are undone, we are all undone." The question at the end of verse 13 is rendered, "Shall we wholly perish?" The statement made isn't part repetitious, but with differing emphases. First, we perish. The Lord is giving us over to death. No mention is made of Israel's arrogance or sin. No mention of the demand for a democracy of religious authority. The clan or tribal heads had not for a moment suggested a democratic power in the tribes. They had no desire to spread democracy below them, only above them, especially in the religious sphere. All the people were held to be equally holy. If so, why were they not equally capable of supplanting the clan leaders? Second, they said, "We are undone, we are all undone." They were finished, in other words. But they did not say this because of their sins, nor did they express repentance. They did not say, "We have sinned." Third, in verse 13, in the last clause, they say in J.H. Hertz's words, "Shall we ever have finished dying?" This is a complaint against God's continuing judgment. Enough is enough, they are telling God. Instead of repenting, they are indicting God as merciless. In other words, the effect of this miracle was terror, not faith. They had begun by insisting that all the people were holy. Now they in effect question the holiness of God. To indict God is a part of man's original sin. To assent to the temptation to be one's own God, determining or knowing what is good and evil, right or wrong, law and morality for oneself, is to say that God is not capable of making valid determinations for his creation. The miracle of Aaron's rod that budded kept them from another immediate rebellion, but it did not change their minds. For them, ultimate power should reside in man's hands, not in God's. They had left Pharaoh behind them physically, but they were still more Pharaoh's people than the Lord's.